what I have learned is that I need to seek out different perspectives on life. And like your perspective is completely different than mine. And that's what I need. And that's why your books have spoken to me so much. And
so I there's a really important point. Socially and everything that we're going through as a country, it may have been 4 years ago now. I was working with a program, and there was some stuff that happened around the kneeling conversation. Mm-hmm. And the coach called and was like, I had just spoken to the program, and that day it had nothing to do with me. They'd already planned this out, but they took a picture and it kind of went viral, and people started calling him and saying, hey, what's going on? And we're going to pull our funding. And I said, he's like, what do you think we should do? And I said, you got to get people together, bring in the police chiefs and police to talk with your players, have them have conversations about what their life is like, and have the players share their experiences with law enforcement, with the police. Sit down, break bread, have conversation. Mm-hmm. One of our biggest issues is that we don't spend time with people that don't look like us. We don't spend time with people that come from different walks of life than us. We have very siloed lives. Mm-hmm. And when you sit down, one of my favorite things about Jesus is that Jesus was constantly, I almost want to say partying with, because I think that point gets kind of missed. Because it kind of was. There was a lot of food and drinks and laughter and joy. And that's usually where he was starting with people. Sure, he would get up and he would speak, but when he would actually sit down with people, he would actually, with Zacchaeus, it was like, hey, I'm going to come and eat with you today. Like, get out of that tree, come eat. Let's hang out. Let's do life together. And when you don't do life with people that don't look like you, that don't come from the same backgrounds as you, it's very easy to judge. It's very easy to say, oh my God, whether it's health related, whether it's fitness related, whether it's athletics related, whether it's business related, everybody has different advantages and disadvantages. They've been exposed to different things, but until we actually have the empathy to sit down and try and listen and learn about somebody else's story and where somebody else is coming from, we're just going to keep tearing each other apart at the core fabric of our society, because we just won't sit down with other people. I feel very blessed in the sense that, I've spent 3.5 years in the projects. I've lived in a homeless shelter. I have friends that run billion-dollar companies. I've been to Ivy League schools. I have I've gotten to travel across the world. I've got this vast amount of different experiences with people, and the more that you get exposed to different people, cultures, if you're open to it, you start to just develop more empathy. That people grew up very different than I did. And it's the same thing of like, I try and be open-minded in the sense of I'm very aware of the way that I look. I get people that look at me all the time. And if you see me, especially at this point in my life, you might see the car that I drive, or you might see the clothes that I wear, or a watch, or the fact that I'm at a country club, or things like that, and immediately go, this rich, privileged prick, and think, that type of thing. And it happens a lot to me. And then somebody will say something about, oh my God, I just can't believe, like, how do you live downtown in San Diego? All the homeless people, it's just ridiculous. And I'm like, oh yeah, that doesn't bother me. I lived and served in a homeless shelter. I've slept on Skid Row. And they're like, yeah, you don't want to judge this book by its cover, because I'm not that guy. And so, but that takes sitting down, breaking bread, getting to know people, listening to their story, you hearing their story, you telling them your story, finding that common ground. And again, like I have, people on the far left political side, the far right political side that I'm really, really close with. And, the more that, it's so fun to me whenever I get to sit down, especially one-on-one, and listen to where they're coming from. And then oftentimes, once I've heard them, because most of the time people just want to be heard.
Yes.
Then I can sometimes share something or a story or a perspective that might be able to kind of help them see something from a different perspective. But it doesn't usually work if it's a preachy tweet or a top-down thing. I had to really work on my heart posture whenever I would speak, because oftentimes whenever I would be on stage, I'd catch myself, and sometimes I would even sit down on stage because of this. And I would tell people, like, I want to be with you. I don't want to talk to you. Because there's a big difference when you're being talked to or whenever you're with someone. And just the more that we can do that as a society, of really seek out those uncomfortable conversations, and even try and listen and learn. Like, one of the things I love about Twitter, there's a lot of crazy stuff, but I try and just learn a lot, and not learn facts. I try and learn perspectives. Like, when somebody writes something crazy, I try and go in and I try and go through the comments and read 100 comments and just see all the different perspectives that are on there. Oh, wow, I hadn't thought about that. I haven't thought about that. I don't get on there and go, ooh, now's my chance to, use my gift with words to be able to linguistically, put these people in their place. No. I want to learn. I want to see where these people are coming from. And then when I sit down with people that I actually do life with, that I'm actually in a relationship with, I have more context for, oh, maybe this is where that was coming from. Or, well, I've thought about this. And then I'm able, in a relationship, to be able to share something that might be able to impact somebody's perspective. And they might be able to share something that impacts my perspective.
That was beautiful. First off, like, being able to, as you said, not just take something that you learned, but be able to apply it and put it into words for people to understand. That's something that a lot of people can't do. But, when you say listening, and your meaning there is absolutely heard. And it's not listening for your chance to respond. It's listening to understand. And that's where a lot of us right now, and I say us because I fall into it as well, like, we need to get better at in listening and not waiting for our chance to respond, but just sitting with it for a little bit.
That's going again back to Twitter, that so many times, that was how I built my whole brand, was on Twitter. And back in the day, people were like, I'm not going to join Twitter. Like, what am I going to do? Tell people about, that I went to the grocery store today. Like, people need to know about my life. And I'm like, yeah, but you don't understand the opportunity to learn. I follow people that I think are crazy on Twitter, that I disagree with wholeheartedly. But I want to actually hear where they're coming from. I want to see. I don't want to live in an echo chamber where I only listen to people that believe the exact same things that I believe. I'm a big boy. I can be challenged. I can hear other perspectives. I can disagree with people. I can listen and not feel like, oh my God, like this is gonna no, like, I don't want to just hear, what I believe. I want to hear things from a different perspective, because then, number one, that should make me, like, if I really believe what I believe, then what am I afraid of?
I love that.
Like, what am I, like, I'm afraid of hearing something different. Well, if what I believe is true, see, I think there's an issue today in our society of people believing their truth. Oh, just speak your truth. I'm not interested in my truth. I'm not interested in your truth. I'm interested in capital T truth. And capital T truth can stand up to anything. So it's not afraid of anything. I've said for a long time, most sports psychologists do not want to share a stage with me. They do not want to have a public debate with me because truth will win. And as soon as they start saying stuff that is untruthful and then it's exposed to truth, people go, oh, yeah, no, that's true. And so what are we so afraid of? Like, I don't understand but to me, again, this is what I'm worried about with our society is, when did we become so soft? We can't hear something different. We can't be exposed to something different and go, oh yeah, this is actually true. I'm not interested in little T truths. I'm interested in big T truth, because big T truth is always going to win. It's not afraid of anything.
I think we became so soft when we started weaponizing fear, because that is what's happened. We've weaponized fear, and it's made us paralyzed with hypotheticals. And that's true. It just is. Like, here's something like that with my youngest, right? That I've thought about, like, growing up, boys did not wear pink. Girls did not wear, certain manly colors. My youngest, we went to the store and we got sunglasses. My oldest picked out a pair of orange Cars, like Lightning McQueen sunglasses. My youngest wanted Minnie Mouse sunglasses. So what did I tell him? Okay, get them. That's what he wanted. What am I scared of? Like, why were people scared of a color? Why were people nervous that, like, if he wants to wear a bow tie, wear a bow tie, like, on his head. Like, that's what Minnie Mouse does. And so I asked him the other day, we were singing the song at the end of Mickey Mouse Clubhouse. And I said, who are you? And he said, Minnie. And I'm like, okay, awesome. Like, good. Like, who you love is who he, and that's who he loves right now. He loves being the Pink Ranger when he plays Power Rangers. Yeah. Okay, go for it. That's something, like, we put these small fears in ourselves that we've learned that have also been put into us, but, like, we allow them to be there. And we let them fester and believe them, and then that keeps us from being passionate. Yeah. Right? Because if you're passionate, then you're not living in reality. Depending on what you're passionate about. But that is almost, your imagination, we kill imagination because it's not real. You can't put it into work. But if you don't have imagination, you can't create something new. If you don't have imagination, there's no, like, we're never going to change, advance as a civilization. Like, you have to have a certain level of imagination for creative thinking and problem solving. And what you talked about there, like, it lit a fire in me. And
well, it's fun. So number one, pink is, like, my favorite color to have on.
I love it too.
I have on capri pants right now that have flowers on them. But so we talked about this before you turned the camera on. I didn't know if there would be a point to share it, but if you see this is my living room wall, and it's the Basquiat wallpaper, and on top of that I wrote spray painted Makeshift, and it comes from, if you see in the corner there, those are these drawings that I used to make whenever I was a kid, but growing up in Tulsa, Oklahoma, I was taught that that wasn't art. And so I had this vision when we moved to this place. My computer's getting low, so I'm going to plug it in here.
Okay.
And
all right. I like those pants. Those are sweet.
But yeah, it's funny at the country club, I get made fun of all the time for them. And I'm like, well, I'm going to do what I like and not worry that it doesn't fit into, somebody's limited view of masculinity. But yeah, so it says Makeshift. And so actually the first one that I did, I want to find the final one. As we become adults.
Jenny says you sound like the coolest person at your country club.
I don't think that they would agree with that. So this is what I wrote, and it's cool. My next door neighbor is she's almost finished it. So she's put this she's painted it on the wall. I was just going to put it on the wall, but she's actually painting it on there. It's pretty cool. As we become adults, we sink deeper and deeper into a prism of perfectionism. We believe the lie that we aren't artists, that only the chosen few can create, that something has to be perfect, that we have to color inside the lines, that we have to accept what is offered, and that we can't make anything better. I love the phrase makeshift because it gives me permission to make things that suck. Because if I make enough shitty things, eventually I'll get better and make something awesome. It's wild to me that even though I sell almost $1 million of art every year, I still have trouble believing I'm a real artist. I loved making art as a kid, but I couldn't draw traditionally, so I developed this deep belief that I wasn't an artist. Every kid believes they are an artist, and they are, because they make shit all the time, often at the disgust and frustration of the adults. The way to ensure that you never make anything awesome is to never make anything at all. My most famous piece of art is far from my best work, but my job isn't to be judge and jury on my own stuff. My job is to do the work. My job is to make shit and hit publish. It's your job as well, but no one hires you for this job. You have to choose to get in the arena. There's a seat in the locker room, a jersey with your name on it, but you have to be courageous enough to choose yourself, get in the arena, and do the work. In a world full of critics, be a creator. We get one life, one at bat, make it count.
That's so applicable in so many areas of people's lives. And we've been talking about just doing things like, hobbies. Don't be afraid to make changes. Like, think of anything you did for the first time. You were uncomfortable. It didn't go well, and maybe it did. Maybe you were a savant, but more than likely, it just didn't work the way you wanted. Like, I'm, watching my kids walk, watching my kids pedal a bike, pedal a tricycle.
Yeah.
It's uncomfortable for me to watch them. They don't know it's uncomfortable though, because they don't know any better. It's only what I would put onto them. But like my oldest, who's 4 now, like, he couldn't pedal a bike till he was 3.5. My youngest, who's 2.5, is pedaling a bike and like this little car he has. It's a pedal one and it's got a steering wheel, and he's doing it all over the house. Like, he can go navigate himself in between doors and stuff. And it's from watching his brother. And like, he did struggle, but like, that's a very simple way of breaking down what you said. And it's what
I loved about when I moved to Los Angeles, that I'll tell you this quick story of, I was in Costa Rica with a girlfriend at the time, and it was this very small little boutique resort. and there was another family that was there, and it was like probably 15 of them, and aunts, uncles, but there was only one young kid. He was probably 11 years old, and he was kind of a savant, and you could tell everybody was kind of obsessed with him. He could fix anything. And 3 of the family members were professors at pretty big universities. And I was listening, and I started asking questions, and I kind of told them a little bit about what I did. And I said, guys, I know this probably sounds crazy, but I was like, I think you need to get this kid to Los Angeles. And, they're from New York. And they were like, well, why do you say that?
Starting the coast battle again.
Exactly. And I said, because, and yes, this is generalizing. Yes, this is a little bit stereotypical, but I said, here's what most likely will happen with a kid like yours. People only know what they know. And when teachers see someone like him, all they know is that he needs to become a doctor, and he's going to go to medical school, because that's what we do with really smart people. Mm-hmm. Maybe he becomes a lawyer, but really what he's going to do is he's probably going to be pushed down a path to medical school. Now, I have no problem with medical school. Maybe that's what's best for him. I said, but if he moves to Los Angeles, he's going to be exposed to creative people and stuff that so outside of the traditional norm, but people are going to more know what to do with him. He's going to see different things, just like your younger son has seen his older son do something, and so much easier for him. Mm-hmm. If all you've ever known is smart people become doctors, smart people become lawyers, smart people become bankers. You know how sad it is to me that so many of the brilliant kids that I went to school with go into banking? And their mind is used to exploit the financial system. Instead of, if they had grown up and were exposed to something else, they might have literally transformed the world. Mm-hmm. They're brilliant. They come up with these financial schemes that they're just so incredibly brilliant. It was one of the things when the Wolf of Wall Street was sentenced, that what the judge said to him is, if you had only used your mind in ways that benefit our society, do you know what you could have done, Jordan? Do you know how you could have impacted our world? But if that's all you've ever known, if that's the environment that you grow up in, that when you're really smart, that you're taught to go into finance and exploit all the financial things and make as much money as possible. And I'm not saying that LA is some special place that, people don't have, character flaws and ethical and moral challenges, but there's just a level of creativity. There's a level of seeing things from a different perspective. I mean, mm-hmm. It blew my mind when I got to Los Angeles and I saw that a 19-year-old girl was creating these wristbands that had big letter words on them that were being sold all over. She was selling millions and millions of dollars of these wristbands. And as stupid and silly as of a thing that was, it was the first time I saw that and was like, you can do that? Like you can just do that? I didn't grow up in a world where you could just do that. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that. Mm-hmm. I wasn't exposed to something like that. When I got to LA, all of a sudden I was exposed to all these people that were just making shit. And so when you get exposed to stuff, it just expands your mind of like, oh my gosh, like there's all these other things, all these other possibilities out there that I can do. And that was my thing with this kid of like, I'm not a pure anti-education person. I have my qualms with the education system, and I've done a lot, and I have a lot of conversations inside of it of how to fix it and make it better. But it's not anti-education, but it's like, but there's these other things that let's be exposed to all of it, and let's find out where we really fit, and let's find out what really sets our soul on fire, and let's become relentless in the pursuit of what sets our soul on fire, instead of you have this really smart kid, and so we only know to put him down these three singular paths because they've just never seen it.
That is a really great perspective, and that's what I agree 100% with you. So, you know, Wisconsin was where I grew up, and I grew up in a small town. And one thing they do there is they put you in a box. And that's exactly what you're talking about. We take people and put them in boxes. And what I want for my kids and what I want to do for myself now as well is I want to take that box and I want to put my own stuff in there. No more of this. You're taking the box and pushing me down inside. I'm going to show you who I am instead of you telling me who I am. And reading your books just reaffirmed that for me, and talking to you now reaffirms that. Like,